Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Singularity podcast, only single player's official podcast of single player topics. I'm your host, J. Scott Brown, but of course, I'm not alone in this endeavor. I'm joined by some other beautiful, lovely, only single player members. Alexis, Tamari, how you doing?
Oh, that was very nice. Thank you. Hi, Jay.
I mean, I'm trying to be nice. It's
It's
very,
your birthday.
very late.
You're feeling happy.
Thank you. It is my birthday, so I feel I have to replicate the sweetness and the loveliness. Josh Atkinson, how lovely are you today?
Howdy, hey.
There you go. And of course, first come up to the only single player Singularity podcast, Ian Jones. What's going on, man?
Shalom. It's been a good Sunday so far.
It's all good, man. As long as you're enjoying yourself, you sound energetic and ready to go.
I'm ready.
Surf
Let's do
Ninja's
it.
ready to go.
Surf Ninja.
That's it. There you go. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in today. If you want to find out the topics, we got our thoughts on Metal Gear The Phantom Pain, which one of us has actually played, very interestingly. So it'll be nice to get some actual deets there on what the game has to offer. We're going to be talking about what's the perfect campaign length in terms of a story single-player mode, and kind of how do you balance that versus the price and quality of a game. And finally, we'll be ending on combining single-player and multiplayer in kind of a campaign. How much can you kind of balance it to the point of where it doesn't, I guess, undermine the single-player experience too much. So we'll be talking about later in the show. Up first, of course, we do have Metal Gear The Phantom Pain, and we are going to completely ignore all the drama, Konami versus Kojima. Let's just get that out of the way because we want to talk about the actual game. And of course, the review score started to drop about a few days ago. It got a 10 out of 10 score from both IGN and GameSpot. The fifth ever game to do so, and one of the other four games was Metal Gear Solid 4. So, of course, that's quite ironic indeed. And as we're recording this, it comes out tomorrow. But, of course, Josh, you do have a copy and you've played a bit. So why don't you talk to me about Metal Gear The Phantom Pain?
Well, first of all, I'm a little bit scared about this is the thing, because like it's been getting all these really amazing reviews, but from what I've played, it's nothing from what everyone's been describing it as, like IGN, etc. It's kind of like literally when we popped the disc in and we went and had a little bit of a go of it, we ended up realizing that it's not the prettiest of games. One of my kind of assumptions is because they've ended up bringing it out on PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 as well, and so they've kind of toned it down a little bit. So there's this whole thing originally about how that Fox engine that they're developing for this final game was supposed to be amazing, fantastic, and funnily enough, the PlayStation 4 version looks like a PS3 game. It is that unusual.
That's really disappointing.
Beards are pixelated, shadows are jaggy, these really bad rendering issues, the field of view is really bad in the desert segments that I've played. It's just, I was kind of blown away. And the funny thing as well is that Ground Zeroes looks 10 times better than Phantom Pain does as well. But that's just the visual thing, because there's also the story, which I'm not going to spoil any of it, because it is kind of mind-blowing as well. The kind of hints and teases that the intro actually presents to you, but it's really oddly paced as well. So I don't know if that's just like a Kojima thing or not, if that's just kind of like how Metal Gear has always been. I'm not too sure, because I've only played I think I've played Metal Gear Solid. I played all of them, I think, apart from the PSP ones. Played 1, 2, 3, Rising, and 4. But it's kind of like, it just starts like it assumes that you played Ground Zeroes, but then at the same time it's kind of like assuming as well that you know what everyone else is going through. So all these characters are going, oh, it's that guy, and it's and that guy's appeared, and you're kind of like, what? Did I show up late? Or something like that. and it's trying to teach you everything through it's like a tutorial within the story as well. And so you're trying to like get hold of what is going on around you, and at the same time you're trying to learn how to actually play the game in the first place. And it's just so weird. All I'm gonna say is there is a part where you're shooting a fiery unicorn with a shotgun.
Yes.
It's so weird, because you're just there going, why? What's going on? You're literally shaking all the characters going, it just makes no sense. And so I'm just like really weirded out by the game. And finally, with the gameplay stuff as well, the maps are incredibly small. It is not an open world thing, kind of like The Witcher 3, which people got excited about. They thought this is going to be this massive sandboxy MGS. And it's not. It's really small. It's really compact and cramped, and there's barely anyone in it. So so it's this thing where it makes me think that maybe they've just ported the last gen versions onto the next gen consoles, and that's what's happened. It's really unusual. Like they've held it back for the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. I don't know. What did everyone else think when they've seen all these teasers and previews? Do they think it was going to be like bigger? Yeah, which I'm actually just about to go for. Well, you start off with a horse,
cute.
so you get you get a horse at the start, and it's like in The Witcher 3, where if you summon the horse would sometimes run away from you when you're trying to get
yeah.
I spent so much
Fucking roach.
time chasing that goddamn horse. And there's this bit where you save Kaz, and you have to try and like get him onto the helicopter, and literally you can put Kaz on the horse, and the horse was like, no. just buggered off. And I was there going, dude, I need you, or it's going to take me an hour to get to the other side of the map. And so that was really fun. The AI is just all over the place as well. But then again, the game hasn't come out, so they might patch it. So it's all kind of like, pre-judgment kind of thing.
Okay, so overall you'd say, like, in comparison to something like The Witcher 3, like, it really doesn't... Like, in terms of an open world, is it like kind of instances? Like, it's not really controlled in the way...
it's kind of like, because where I ended playing it, we just got to Mother Base, and so it kind of had this weird intro, which kind of made no sense, and then you kind of get dropped into the desert bit, which you've seen in previews, and then you go to Mother Base, and so it's kind of like one of those things where you get dropped in the desert map, you then go to this little seashell thing. Was it called the Big Shell in Metal Gear Solid 2? I think that massive oil rig thing.
No idea.
And so it's literally a replica of that, and you go to that, then I think you go back out into the desert, and you just keep going back and doing missions in that same map. And so that's what's kind of got me a little bit because there are these little towns in this small compact level, but I feel like it's going to get so repetitive. Because you want it to be kind of randomized and different and just big, like how with The Witcher, it's so much comparisons to The Witcher 3, but how like you could go to, was it Velen, and then you had was it called White Orchard or whatever?
White Orchard was like the starting area, yeah.
And it was huge by itself. That was the funny thing. So when you got to Velen, you were kind of like, oh my goodness,
because White Orchard was tiny compared to the world. Yeah, it was nuts.
Yeah. It was still kind of open and big. Like, I would say that the actual desert map in Phantom Pain is maybe about half the size of Orchard.
What?
Wow.
Yeah.
Whoa, that's insane.
It is that small.
That's
Sorry
tiny.
to disappoint everybody.
I mean, I wasn't planning on
thank
picking
you.
it up, but...
that was a great talk about that.
There are only 2 maps in the entire game, which reviewers have brought up as well. There is the desert map, and then there's the jungle map. And supposedly the jungle map's a little bit bigger, but after that, there is nothing else to go to. So you're kind of going into the same levels. And so reviewers have been saying, like, you kind of need that extra map just to kind of, like, spice things up, that there is a little bit of sameness. But from just wandering around the first map, I could feel that just from, having my small taste of it. It was really weird and kind of, I don't know. I was talking to someone else before, and they feel that maybe they've kind of, like, rushed the game out a little bit, even though it's been in development for so long. It doesn't feel like, like with Colonial Marines, how they showed all this amazing stuff before it was released. It's kind of got that to it.
They lied, yeah.
Straight up lied.
I've got weird shivers of the same feeling from Colonial Marines, and so I hope it's not the same thing. But I'd love to know.
Well, how many hours would you say you're in at the moment?
About 3.
Okay. Yeah, that is true. Yeah. It might reveal slowly. I'll just say for the record, like, in terms of Metal Gear, like, connection with the franchise, I am, like, literally the guy that everyone points to that wants to, like, burn at the stake. The only Metal Gear game I played is Revengeance. I love the shit out of it. It's amazing. I know... What's that?
It was my favorite one. I loved Revengeance.
Oh, it's so great. Love it.
It was one of the things as well where everyone dreamed when you were playing Metal Gear Solid 1 and you saw Grey Fox zipping around kicking ass, you wanted to be that guy. That was the character. You just wanted to put that Solid Snake go on holiday. You want to be the ninja. And once they let you play as that dude, and how they just made it just perfect. It just felt fluid.
And I love anything by Platinum. Yeah, Platinum is just such a phenomenal developer. So I have no history. Does Alexis, Ian, do you guys have anything, like, in terms of history with the franchise going back to the originals on PlayStation 1 and 2? Like, do you guys have some history there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's where I started. I started with Metal Gear. Not, like, the original one, but obviously Metal Gear Solid. So, like, that's the 3rd one, I guess, in the franchise?
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
Even though it seems like it was, like, 1,000 years ago. That's really... I mean, yeah, I didn't truly, like you... follow after that, It was just more of a like now I know like who the characters are pretty much for the most part. So if I were to get Metal Gear, I probably could like keep up with it, but
Sure, yeah.
I would say
Yeah, that's
actually
fair
that's kind of good actually because if you haven't played the first two, Metal Gear Solid 3 has a lot of connections to the Phantom Pain, so you will notice a lot of the characters and story that has kind of cropped up in the past. So it's kind of is like a direct sequel, and so you don't kind of have to pay attention to say Metal Gear Solid. What are the PSP games called? Portable Ops and
Peace Walker.
yeah,
Or
so
Peace
what they've
Walker.
done is they've been able to kind of chip that away, and so you don't really have to care about it. So if you have only
That's
played
good,
Metal Gear
yeah.
Solid 3, it is your true sequel, which is good.
Yeah. My
what about Metal Gear Solid
Ian, what
4?
about you?
my experience with Metal Gear is limited. I think I played like half of Metal Gear Solid, and it was the terrible port to the PC that Kojima eventually did. And so I got halfway through, and then there was this area where the controls just wouldn't translate. Like you needed a PlayStation 1 controller to get past it. Like I couldn't do it with my keyboard. So I was like, okay, I'm done with the game. But it was
I bet
convoluted.
it was the Psycho Mantis part.
Probably. I think I had to like snipe somebody or something.
Oh,
and, like,
never mind.
I could've-
Okay, yeah.
But I've always watched the Metal Gear thing unfold from afar, and it always seems really over the top and ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking like, this is my big thing with MSG5. It's probably great for a lot of reasons. There's probably some on-point stuff being said in the reviews. Maybe it's a bit overhyped. But I kind of just find the whole thing ridiculous. And I know people are bring out the pitchforks, but like I remember in the media leading up to it, like you remember the character Quiet, right?
Yeah.
Here we have a character in the midst of a lot of commentary in the gaming industry about sexism and about the way women are objectified in games, and I literally thought. No, I literally thought this character was a joke. Like when I first saw her, okay, we have a character who's like she's wearing hardly a black bra and like torn up leggings, and she cannot talk. Her name is Quiet. She says no words. It's like, okay, that's literally an object. Like, what? Why are you putting that in the game? And it's like it's that kind of thing that Metal Gear has done in the past for me. Like, why does Snake have one horn and an eye patch in the game? I'm sitting around like the creators are probably there going like, oh yeah, like it'd be really cool if he had a horn and an eye patch. Like, oh, but how does that make sense with the story? We'll fill it in. Just give him the horn and the eye patch, and then we'll worry about it
Can I
later.
put my hand up a second? That's actually what happens at the end of Ground Zeroes. When his helicopter explodes, he gets
unicorn
shrapnel
horn?
in his head. So it's just shrapnel
okay, that
from
makes
the
sense.
helicopter. That's all it is.
I know, but like I'm still like and they eventually
it'd be
do
more
come
magical.
up with reasons,
Well,
but I think they're
funnily
probably-
enough.
Only
go on,
enough,
sorry,
yeah.
I'll
They're
let you
coming up with the character design, and they're like, "I think it'd be cool if he had a horn." Okay, figure out why he has a horn. Like, I don't know. It's just.
Metal Gear Solid.
Oh, I know.
Oh no! Stop, please.
There's this amazing bit when I was playing it where they use that as kind of like a gameplay device with the whole horn on his head, where basically you're learning about how to take down all the enemies silently, and when you're talking to them or interrogating them, they're all talking a different language, and what is it Ocelot says, because basically you can like tag someone and then you can learn information about them, and so when you're interrogating this guy and he's going or whatever he says when you're trying to like say where all the enemies are, Ocelot goes,
That was pretty good Russian.
yeah, wherever they're from, it's probably some made-up language, but Ocelot says something like, the shrapnel has affected your communication, like, perceiver or something in part of your brain, so you need, like, an intel person to explain what the language is.
Yeah.
So, like, how he understands English is beyond me, but that's the reason why he can't, like, learn other languages, is because this horn is stuck in part of his head. So I was like,
Maybe it's just all a dream.
I think it's because
Oh, God.
Kiefer Sutherland couldn't be asked to learn other languages and talk it.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, I mean, it all seems highly metaphorical and highly allegorical and all that stuff,
Contract.
which is like, all right, fine. Like, it's just, it lacks like the logical basis.
It's a video game. Come on.
We should be demanding more of our video games. That's all.
Well, okay. Well, I'll devil's advocate a little bit there, just because. And I can't really maintain this too strongly because I haven't played all the predecessors. But one of the things I loved about Revengeance was that it was just like it really bathed in its like absurdity, and it like didn't give a shit. And like, I mean, I didn't follow the story at all. It was fucking bonkers. But when there's points in that game where like Raiden just goes Super Saiyan, and it's just like, what the fuck is happening? And it's amazing. Like, it's just he doesn't give a shit. He just goes fucking Mega Man mode and just starts killing. It's like incredible. And like, I get what you're saying. It's like it is weird to me because, again, like Phantom Pain's gonna be real interesting. I haven't played Ground Zeroes. I'm gonna play it in prep, obviously, but going into Phantom Pain, I'm just like, it's so strange because looking from the outside in, I totally agree with you. Like, Metal Gear is such a franchise where it's like, what is like? There's Snake and Big Boss and Super Snake.
They've
like,
always done that really well, where they have embraced the ridiculousness and the convoluted storytelling. And just like, this is what Metal Gear is, and that's why people like it. So it's like, if you're going in for that kind of thing, fine. It's gonna live up to fans' expectations, I think, in terms of its story.
For sure, yeah, and it's just like this, but it's the level that they do it at where it's like so much depth, and I think I saw on like YouTube some 8-hour story recaps for Phantom Pain going into it. I'm just like, Jesus, like I want to go into Phantom Pain, I want to give it a fair shake, and I don't want to be this guy that goes into it being like and telling all the fans being like, it's not worth it because it doesn't make sense, but it's like, but they get it and they enjoy it, so I want to kind of have a basis, but then simultaneously it's like, do I have 2 days to free up so I can educate myself and like what the fuck is happening? Because I have no clue, and it's gonna be insane. I don't know what's gonna go.
And to be fair, like we have our things over here in like Western media that are just as bad. Like, if you tried to sit down and explain what's going on in Game of Thrones to someone with no exposure, like it would take you days. So I mean, I get it.
Death and sex.
Death and sex. Yeah.
And,
did I just do it?
Weddings.
I win!
But yeah, well, okay, Josh, getting back to the game then.
Oh yeah, go for it. Ask me anything
so,
you want, any questions.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of, because the thing is, I've tried to be as kind of disconnected as possible, like leading up to launch, just because in terms of what it is, it just seemed to keep changing. I remember when GTA 5 came out, like Kojima was tweeting a bunch of depressing shit where he's like, MGS5 is nowhere near as good as GTA, I need to make it better, and he just like changed it a bunch, and I just wasn't sure what was really happening with it. And again, I just wasn't a Metal Gear fan, so it just didn't really matter to me. So coming up to the launch now, does it really do anything that's too different in terms of, one, a Metal Gear game, and in terms of, two, just a game in general? Does it really try to do anything different and innovative that like is really kind of interesting there to an extent?
I think it was more that because in other Metal Gear games, you kind of had your like static placement of enemies, which was, so when you kind of played the game again, you kind of knew where everybody was and you knew how to take them down. You had your process. But in Phantom Pain, the thing that was really cool was that when I was wandering around to each little mini village, there was so much openness of how you could take everybody down. So like in, say, let's see, Metal Gear Solid 2, it was all very compact, so you're kind of just going through like small rooms. You had to like sneak in, under like a desk, and then like stealth kill, some dude or something, and then every single time you'd just go around and do the exact same thing. But in Phantom Pain, literally as you're walking up to these locations, you just, this entire option menu in your head just opens up, and you think, well, what I could do is I could go up this mountain and I could equip my sniper rifle and then just snipe all the dudes. I could sneak in, trank everybody while crawling them in the bush, because you can actually use the environment kind of like in like Far Cry, and the like proper stealthed in. It's not just having to put urban camo on like you did with Metal Gear Solid 3, right, where you had to put the face paint things on and stuff. You can actually blend in things, which is really cool. Or you can wait till nighttime or daytime, take advantage of that. You could ride your horse and then hide on the side of it and just sneak past everybody. So there are all these different options to do it all, which is really awesome. And that's something that Metal Gear Solid in the past never did. You had two options: sneak into people and stab them, or shoot them all in the face. And
Stop
in this
Lawson.
one, and so in this one, you've got all these different ways of doing the same thing, but it's cool that way, because you've got so many options. It feels like a massive open world in that sense. It's just, as mentioned before, it's just way too compact for that.
And the enemies adapt too, don't they? Like to your fighting style. Like if you go one way, then you can't do it again.
Yeah, so there was this bit right at the end of my playthrough which really threw me off, where you've probably seen them in the preview trailer, where they were kind of like these twitchy zombies with like glow-in-the-dark night vision goggle things, and they kind of like move like the girl from The Ring, and they appear...
Okay, great.
Yeah, so this is kind of, it's not a spoiler really because they were shown in the trailer, but you
Yeah.
literally get to your helicopter and this and these things appear and it's completely different enemy type, and literally as they spot you, this just threw me off so much. They they look like zombies and then they just kind of, this cutscene starts and they start to phase machine guns from their hands. You know, kind of like have you ever played
Like the
Vanquish
T-1000.
before? Yeah, kind of like that. But have you ever played the game Vanquish?
No, I never
Anyone
did.
played by Platinum Games? Now, what that main
yeah,
character
back
had, he
in
had
the
like a
day.
gun handle, and literally his gun could transform into it. It was literally like that. It was digitized into the real world, and I was stood there like, what the fudge is happening? And the thing is, you can't kill these guys, so you have to get onto your horse and run. And it's like a chase scene. They start jumping around the environment while running like angry gorilla dogs, shooting you midair, backflipping and everything. And I was there going, I've just been like silently killing normal dudes, and you threw me out of my comfort zone, and I was freaking out. I was literally riding for my life, and there are these mid-air zombie ninja chimpanzees with submachine guns flying through the air like Agent Smithing me. And I was like, that is really cool, you know?
Is the
That is
protagonist just
different.
like hallucinating the whole time?
That's why I said it's all just a dream.
I
just
feel
Me-
like
Metal
I feel
Gear
like I'll be
LSD.
spoiling it because I mean I guess I could say
Gear
this bit as well.
LSD.
Everything you just described is perfect.
We're
10
gonna
out of
have to
10.
put a spoiler on this because there is a little bit at the start where now this is kind of interesting because I don't know how it kind of translates to the actual game. You actually have a character creator, okay?
Oh,
So
okay,
it shows
sure.
the intro of Ground Zeroes. It shows everything happened. The helicopter crashes. You get taken into this hospital, and you've got a bandage on your face. And then it literally takes you to a Dark Souls-esque kind of character creator where you get all these different faces. You can change the face however you like, kind of like actually no, like Mass Effect and stuff as well. Where you can change the nose, the eyebrows, and all that. And then literally you play. Or I think the other character plays as that person. So you've got this weird customized character guiding you and teaching you how to be Big Boss. And I was just there going, this is what I mean. I was going, what is going on? This is so confusing. This is not what I expected. And so how that goes about, because he keeps saying like, I am you, I am Big Boss. And it's like, but the funny thing was, I picked a black guy, and so it was like, I'm sure Big Boss isn't. But you could pick any kind of ethnicity, which was really unusual. So it's kind of like, how does that make sense? How does that kind of continue?
Doesn't that seem like sacrilegious almost to like the? I mean, that's how I felt when people changed Shepard's face
Yeah.
in Mass Effect. I'm like, you asshole! You're a horrible person.
That's not the
Do
guy
not
on
do
the
that.
box. You can't do that.
You can't do
That's
it. You
the
can't
thing,
do it.
because like when he wakes up from this coma and stuff, he's got all these kind of weird stitches across his face. So it makes me wonder if they've done a thing where they've like put Big Boss's face on some other guy, and then like halfway through the game he's gonna like pull it off or something like that, and you can like choose
Oh,
to wear
wow.
the mask
Like a
Metal Gear Solid
Scooby-Doo
3.
mask.
Yeah, you know,
Scooby-Doo
like
mask?
in MGS3, you could do that with the Raiden mask. There was this character who looked just like Raiden. You could wear his face, and so it makes me
God.
wonder if they're just doing that again. But
It's
it's
face
so
off.
weird. Yeah, like what if Big Boss has actually died, and you're playing as this completely different character?
You're secretly
I-
playing as Nicolas Cage.
yeah.
False enough, it's Nick
That
Cage.
would-
That's the spoiler.
I think that would be the
10
most
out of
powerful
10.
one.
Game of the
10
year.
out of 10.
Well, this is the
Holy
thing. Because
shit.
they're giving this game such high scores. There must be a reason why this game is so good. I haven't seen
Yeah.
that yet, but it must be the story and the twist. Because supposedly there are immense twists if you are a big fan of the Metal Gear Solid series, like massive things that connect from Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, and 3, and even maybe potentially the portable ones as well. So very curious, really excited to see what happens, but also very held back. I don't trust them
Yeah.
100%. But I'm gonna see where it goes. It's gonna be really, really.
So you would say, in a general sense, right now, that you kind of, well, I mean, you probably wouldn't even say this at all because you have played very little. But I guess what you're kind of implying there is that you don't really understand this idea that it's like the greatest game of this year so far.
It doesn't play. After I played The Witcher 3, that is now like my standard.
Totally agree. Totally agree. Yeah.
Especially with open world stuff as well. So maybe that's why Kojima was kind of reacting to that when he saw GTA and stuff, because you can see that a little bit. Things like watching enemy jeeps drive by and stuff. So it does have that little bit of an open world to it. It does feel so empty though, because it is in a desert landscape. There is literally no life. There is pretty much no wildlife around and stuff like that too. So it doesn't have that kind of immersion factor that say GTA had. So maybe that was the reaction that he saw, maybe, and when he looked at it and compared to his own game. I can kind of see it that way.
Different game. Like, why would you compare GTA to Metal Gear?
Because
They're
with
two
GTA,
completely
you did
different
have
things.
wildlife and stuff wandering around as well. So it was kind of like with Red Dead, you had all this different, like all these different inhabitants too. So maybe you kind of thought, well, I've just got this sandbox with a bunch of enemies, and that's it. I can't go out and fight like wild bears and wild cats and stuff like that either. You literally just go on the mission and that's it. So it's, again, look, I don't really know that much either. So it's still kind of like smoke and mirrors at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
to
that makes sense. Yeah.
recap, Jay, Ian, and myself are indifferent, and Josh is absolutely not impressed.
I am not impressed
Oh,
at all. Not yet. I give it
Not
from what I played
impressed.
for 3 hours, 6 out of 10.
If we were to
Six out of 10.
encapsulate this conversation in emojis,
Yeah.
Josh would be sad face, and
Yeah.
we would be the face with the diagonal mouth, which I
Yeah.
don't even know how to describe. Is that even a face?
We'd be the shrugging shoulder of Twitter.
Yeah, I guess so.
Not even that. Have you seen the Facebook Messenger picture of like the sad face with the tears just streaming down? That is my face.
That's you? Oh my
Yeah,
god.
that is me. That is like this is supposed to be the final Metal Gear Solid game,
Yeah.
and this is what we got. Really, really, Kojima.
Like,
this
it's
is
like the
what you
last
do?
episode of The Sopranos. It's just so sad.
Well, okay. Well, before we move on though, just Josh, did you play Ground Zeroes?
Oh yeah, I played all of them apart from the portable ones. That's the only one.
And you thought Ground Zeroes was
I thought it was
definitely
horrible.
like something.
I hated that one as well.
Oh, you hate it? Oh, sure. Okay.
Yeah, because it was one of those moments where because the game was a demo and it wasn't worth the price that they were charging it, I was completely against it for that. And
Okay.
it was one of those things too where it was obviously the first part of Phantom Pain and they separated it and charged for
They
it.
just chopped it off.
Or you can just tell when you start this game up, they literally just show the ending of Ground Zeroes. So it's like, why did you even bring that out?
Yeah. It
Makes
seems,
no
seems
sense.
It's almost like
definitely.
they were testing the waters. Like, hey, this is what we're doing with Metal Gear. Maybe people will buy it.
Yeah, or maybe they're like halfway through Phantom Pain. They're like, we need to make some money off this shit so we can finish it. They're just like,
Yeah,
alright,
yeah.
give him the
Yeah.
prologue.
That's when Kojima
Right,
changed
probably.
everything after he saw GTA 5, and he's like, okay, we need more money. Just sell the first
Yeah.
15 minutes.
But that's the scary
yeah.
thing though, is that as mentioned before, Ground Zeroes visually looked so much better, and so it's just so weird that there's this
Well, it's
kind
a
of
smaller
and
environment.
yeah, and
right?
it's
Like-
funny as well because when you watch the cutscenes as well, because it shows the intro to Ground Zeroes, and Big Boss looks a little bit different compared to what he does in Phantom Pain. In a visual design sense, he actually looks better in Ground Zeroes too. So the character mode looks better, the environments look better, everything looks better compared to Phantom Pain. So it's like,
Yeah.
what happened? Why did you do this? And why did you even present that in cutscene form and then like transition to this now game? And he's just kind of there, like you kind of just like knocked out and going, eh?
I remember
Yeah.
Ground Zeroes as sort of like a tech demo for what the PS4 could do, and they were like,
Oh,
look
yeah.
look at Snake's face, look at the animation. But it's kind of like that, like the fighting game and the racing game versus like real open world games where they have this very, very limited environment that they have to render, so they can render certain things with like amazing geometric detail and animation, but then once you transition over, you got to dumb everything down to fit everything on screen. So
Yeah, that's a fair point. That might be a good point to lead into our next topic there in terms of different campaigns and story modes and stuff like that. And our next topic is going to be what's the perfect campaign length? What's that sweet spot that we look for in terms of, I guess
Boing.
we're speaking AAA title, but we could obviously talk about all types, all games across
I think
all.
we have to address genres in that discussion.
Sure, exactly as well. So what's the perfect kind of campaign length depending on the title, the type of the style, whatever. Alexis, this was your topic, so why don't you make this a bit more specific for us?
Well, I was just thinking about like games that are coming out, like Mad Max is coming out, Metal Gear's coming out, which, oh my god, Mad Max, I'm so excited for. But I'm still not through Batman Arkham Knight. Because at this point, no, I'm through like with all the game. I'm trying to perfect it.
100%.
Yeah, 100%. So I'm not. I still haven't like finished it, and I got this game when it came out, and
Gotta get them Riddler trophies, man.
those fucking Riddler trophies, I hate it. It's so annoying. And I think it's like what they say, like everyone doing it, if you sat down and played it straight through, it probably would take you to complete everything like a few days or something like that. Where when I sit down and play like a Halo campaign, it only takes me like 6 hours
Oh
completely
yeah, I
to
mean,
watch
you
through.
picked that
Like,
up
Those
yeah.
are
the
very,
midnight
very
launch and just
different
play it.
games. Yeah.
right, yeah, and that's what you were talking about. It depends on which style of game, and there, kind of like what Josh was talking about with like what was wrong with Metal Gear, where there's really not much to do outside of the campaign. It's not really open world. There's no really like side quests kind of things. You just go through and you um, beat all the different outposts, and you just kind of like go through the campaign like a pseudo open world kind of game.
Yep.
But I love the Batman game, and it's so much fun, and there's so much to do. But there's so much to do, and I was just curious as like what you guys think. Do you want a game that's because I mean compare so Halo's $60 and like Batman is like $60, and they're two completely different lengths of games. I would rather spend $60 on a Batman type game, but that's like the economist in me saying I don't want to waste my money.
In terms of value.
Yeah, I don't want to like. I can play Batman over and over and over and over. Whereas like Halo, it's going to be the same thing every time. So I was just curious as
depends on
like
the
what you
product,
guys
though.
think. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
it
it's one of those
does
things
depend
as
on the
well.
product.
Oh, go on, Ian. I'll let you go.
Yeah, I mean, it's like in terms of the value. I know we're talking about single player games, but with something like Halo, you got to look at the demographic who's buying the game. Their replay value exists in the multiplayer arena.
That's
They're
what I was
going to
gonna say as
get
well.
as many or more hours out of that game because they head over to multiplayer. They might play the single player campaign once, they might play it twice, but that's where they're spending the majority of their time in the other side of the fence. A game like Batman, yeah, like I think a lot of the single player open world game, the big push for the development in that area, especially something like The Witcher 3. I've read a lot of articles with people saying like literally it's too big. It's too daunting. I start up the game, I look at the list of shit I have to do, and I turn it off because it's like
Yeah.
going to work. You know, I don't. So that's
Do
one
your
criticism.
chores.
Yeah, do your chores, get through your quest list, and it's like there's too much. I can't do it. So,
Mom, I just want to go outside and play.
so I've heard that about that. So, but like the big push to put that amount of content in a single player game, I feel like it's almost like that side of the industry combating the kind of value players get out of multiplayer titles because they're like, I can put 200 hours into this and I paid $60 for it. I can't do that with a single player only game. Well, now you can. You know, like
Yeah,
with the big
Yeah.
that's a really great point. To further build upon that, because I think that's actually a really nice point, and it's like I totally agree. And we get to games like Alexis was talking about with this pseudo open world shit that Ubisoft just continue to pull with stuff like Far Cry and Assassin's Creed.
Right.
It just seems to be their style of things. And I totally agree with the people to an extent that claim that The Witcher 3, it's too much. It's too dense. It's too, focused in terms of its content, and it's so overwhelming. I get that, but simultaneously, how is that a criticism almost?
it's almost not. Yeah.
It's hard for me to fathom that just because The Witcher 3 was honestly it's my favorite game of this year so far. It's such an amazing adventure RPG. Its open world is fucking astounding, and it's like I look at that game and I'm like this. I mean, obviously I don't want a Witcher 3 every month because I probably couldn't handle that. But The Witcher 3 was so fantastic for what it was, and if we get CD Projekt Red churn out another one every couple of years or so, you can bet your ass I'm going to spend you said $60, but in Australia it's like 120. I'll spend that and I'll get it because it's worth it. And when you compare that to something like which came out earlier this year that caused a lot of this kind of length drama, The Order 1886, you compare that to a title that arguably is not worth that AAA price tag, and then you say, well, it's really about the value there. And I feel like The Witcher 3, the content versus value is so significant when you compare it to something like Assassin's Creed or Far Cry, where the value is mostly from repetitive activities that don't necessarily offer unique experiences that really kind of evolve over the course of your playtime, if that makes sense. Yeah,
It does.
Yeah, I mean, it was something that we spoke about last week as well with The Order as well, that it was maybe that disconnect between the publisher maybe not understanding the value of the game, of what they actually made, and maybe thinking it was like this massive 20-hour thing when really it wasn't. And the funny thing was, as mentioned before as well when we did our last podcast, was that I loved the game. I thought it was really good. I'd probably give it a really high score if I was reviewing it. And to be fair as well, I didn't really care about the price either. I loved the world. I loved everything about it. It's one of those things where it is a preference-based thing. But as well with things like The Witcher, though, is that with the new game Plus that has just come out, that's kind of like
for free.
Yeah, for free as
For
well,
free.
everybody. So go get it because it's supposed to be awesome. Because funnily enough, there is new content in there as well. There are new swords and different things like that. So there's more to get. But at the same time, you're supposed to play that game kind of like how Alexis was saying about with Batman. With when you do say New Game Plus in that game, it plays it like the hardest difficulty. So it's you're going to put more time into it because you've got to be more careful, more tactical, more of a gamer when playing it. And so with The Witcher 3, you've got to do the exact same thing. So I assume everyone who's played The Witcher 3 did it on the normal difficulty, right?
Of course, yeah.
No.
Yeah. So
I'm too much of a pussy.
Ian, did you play on a high difficulty?
I played it on the highest. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
So
my
you'll
God.
understand
We got a badass over
He
here.
is a fucking badass.
because with deathmatch difficulty, the game is
takes a
completely
while.
different. Yeah, it is. You don't play it like you do normal because you do have that whole thing where if you meditate, you can't heal. So you have to actually hunt animals and things in the wilderness. The killing rabbits and deer is actually something really important because that is how you get your health back. You don't sit down and then wait an hour or 5 minutes, however it takes for you to actually get your health back with the meditation thing.
You go
I
actually
can't
have
do
to
that.
go.
I'm a pacifist,
potion
Josh. I can't do that.
diagrams and like the amount of time you
Exactly.
spend looking for Witcher gear. Oh my god.
Because one thing that was funny is that's one complaint I had with the normal mode of Witcher 3 is that you get so many decoctions and toxins and whatever you call them and grenades
You don't use
and
them,
all
yeah.
these blueprints and you're just sat there like, why do I need all this stuff? But then when you play this deathmatch mode or New Game Plus, whatever, you're just sat there like, and you get it, you understand it, this is the game you're supposed to play, and it is even longer than the standard length of The Witcher. It is like double the length of what you're playing, so it's got even more length to it, which is just freaking scary.
Yeah.
So,
it gets really long.
Nuts.
Yeah, that's very fair as well. But I do think it totally is about that value, right? I mean, for someone that enjoys the Halo campaign and stuff like that, and I agree with you guys. I mean, I get it mostly out of the multiplayer, but there are people that pick up Call of Duty and they just play the campaign, and that baffles me. But there are people that do that, and so maybe there's something to be said about the short, snappy 7-hour Hollywood roller coaster ride. That's what I meant. I seem to have a stroke every episode. It's fine.
Well.
It's
Look,
okay.
still.
But there's
You're
something
almost
to be said about
baker's
that.
dozen at
There
this
is
point.
something to be said about that. Like,
But I do agree. It's I would me personally, I'm with Witcher 3 as opposed to a COD or The Order any day of the week. But I will concede the easy counterpoint to that, which is when something like Journey comes out, and it's a 2-hour experience that resonates with me forever because it's just fucking great. I happily will concede the point that is actually fantastic as well. But what you need to recognize is that that's like $15. That's not $60, right?
At the same time, it's also based on game design as well and how well they put that game together and how they actually pace it. So it's one of those things where by the time you finish the game, you're going to give it that kind of value judgment. And so the ending needs to pay off. The middle segment needs to actually bridge you to want to play the ending things. And the beginning has to make you be like, yes, I'm ready for this. And so it is also obviously down to the developer making a package that kind of makes you feel like it justifies it as well. So with Journey, obviously it was perfect. And so you didn't really, even if it was like $30, I would have still bought it because it was just this special thing. It was this thing that they just put together so well. And when you played it and when you saw that star going back, or whatever you were at the end, going back into the desert, you were just like, got it.
Spoiler.
You understood the message. Have you not played it?
Spoiler alert.
That's not a
played-
spoiler.
No, man,
That was so bare bones. That was so bare. Hey,
She's
it's been out for
Team
years.
Xbox, man.
Oh,
Team
okay.
Xbox.
Everyone judge, but there was one of those things. As we were saying,
jealous.
with that value, that message as well of how they did it at the end, it was just right, and so it is completely down to the developer in getting that done and making sure that kind of response is there through game design, which then goes to the customer, which then thinks, "Hey, this was worth it,"
Yeah.
I had a good experience.
Yeah. You have to look at where the developer puts their energy. All the things you just said about Journey, I immediately put over onto The Order. Like that game, got criticized for being a series of really, really pretty quick time events, and there wasn't a lot of action and stuff like that. Well, look at what the developer was doing. Like, there isn't a game out there that looks the way The Order looks. You're watching, like, basically a long animated movie with super high production values, and they put a lot of time into that. And it's like, okay, I think consumers have to realize what they're paying for. Like,
sure, yeah, but obviously that needs to be.
You don't get that warning though before you buy games.
That's what I was gonna say.
The marketing for the game is like, oh, it's gonna be this great big epic adventure, and it's like, no, it's gonna be like a cinematic
movie.
Experience. Yeah, like
Does that mean that
so
bring
cinematic
more
that there's
demos
black
out then, do you
bars?
think?
I mean, it's tricky because if they had marketed the game honestly, completely honestly, maybe people wouldn't have gone in on it, you know? So publishers are scared because they want to sell the game, obviously, but it's a fine line.
They should have basically done a heavy rain and actually said what it was, because people went into that knowing what they were going to get.
Exactly. People went into like all those games knowing what they were going to get.
Mm-hmm. But everyone thought it was going to be the Gears of War of the PlayStation 4, which rhymes, which is awesome.
Dope raps there, Josh. Dope rhymes.
I'm sorry.
No,
I
definitely tend to agree. I mean, I don't think anyone would argue that if we had an industry of complete transparency where everyone knew what was coming and going, I don't think anyone would actually argue against it. I do agree, but a big problem with I think you guys pretty much nailed it. The big problem with this stuff like The Order is that, you know, when we find out that it's 30 FPS, the developer comes out and tries to defend that because it's part of their cinematic vision or whatever the fuck that means. So it's like, it's weird stuff like that really kind of undermines the integrity of what they're trying to do. And again, I think it's all about like the price and kind of if the price matches your subjective vision of value. Mm-hmm. So, and obviously that's going to be different for everyone.
We're getting deep, man.
That's what we're doing, man. That's,
Philosophy Sundays.
No shit.
But that's
this is what you get for bringing up Metal Gear Solid at the start.
Dude, now that he got 1 year older, you got 1 year deeper, man.
Holy shit, 19 inches deeper. But yeah. Before I lost track of what I was saying, I had a point.
I'm really good about that. I'm really great at distracting
I appreciate that.
for what they were trying to say.
No, but I was just trying to highlight that, like, to me, I can pay $20 a journey, have a great time. I can pay $20 a going home and get an experience that I'm gonna remember and I'm gonna connect with. And I can, I think this whole idea of length might be not the maybe the center point of it, because again, it depends on genre, it depends on the style, the design, everything. And I do agree that just because this idea of quantity does not directly translate to content quality. Right. Like something like the Witcher, just because it's 200 hours doesn't mean every single hour is going to be amazing. It is, but it doesn't mean that it's going to be amazing.
It's a rare example of
not biased,
quality like coming together.
Exactly, yeah, because The Witcher is a masterpiece. But just talking about other stuff, because we do need to reference the other games.
I was going to say, actually, because it's really unfair on other games, because The Witcher 3 did all of its side quests so good, that now other games that have been developed and released, it's kind of like, you're just there like, oh, I feel so bad for you.
Exactly.
You've been made while this other game was been like really well made. You didn't even know. It's kind of like just like a dog like showing up and already having the gun locked and loaded at its face when it opens the door. So he didn't know.
That is
he didn't know he was
dark shit. Where did this podcast go?
What
the fuck?
Off the rails. No.
Fucking dog suicide, murder suicide. Like what the? I don't even know what the shit.
God damn it!
One day we will have a discussion where it's not about Witcher though.
No,
other developers are hanging.
Goddamn Witcher and its goodness.
Well, how about we talk about it? What if we talk about a few different like genres? 'Cause I feel like specifically when the campaign is going to be usually the focus, we're talking about FPSs, we're talking about RPGs.
Yep.
So when we're thinking of games like the newest Assassin's Creed, what is a real ideal length that you're looking for in terms of not overstaying its welcome, because it is just kind of a generic adventure game? What do you want out of it in terms of actual length there, I think.
Well, maybe I can propose like a qualifier. Like, let's just say that the given is that the pacing for all the games we're going to be talking about is good. With good pacing,
Oh, for sure,
then
yeah,
X,
for
Y,
sure.
Z. Because bad pacing can just really throw the whole thing off.
Oh, totally.
So,
I agree.
like, I don't know.
Go for it.
Main-
All right, well,
main storyline,
yeah, I
like
mean,
20, 30 hours.
yeah, I think that's pretty
Really?
For like an open world thing, like Grand Theft Auto.
For an open world, yeah, totally. I can
Yeah.
get that.
Yeah.
But you mean like what about like a straight shooter? You know, kind of like during
Shooter-
trials and stuff.
Depending on the difficulty, I like that, like between 8 and 12. You know.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. I'd say about
Yeah.
8 and 12.
Yeah. Like,
well, then you have something like Wolfenstein, you know, that kind of trumps that in terms of what Call of Duty does and Halo do with their and Battlefield even with their short, snappy adventure thrill rides. You know, you got Wolfenstein that's like what, somewhere in the realm of 20 to 25 hours in terms of full length, and then it also has like the choice thing that you do a few times, and that kind of
amazing.
maybe arguably gives you more hours there. So what do you think about that in terms of an FPS?
well, what did Wolfenstein really bring to the table in multiplayer? Did they have anything?
Just they didn't have any
no
multiplayer.
multiplayer.
So.
No
Yeah,
multiplayer.
exactly. So they put a little bit more time developing their campaign, making it more of a single player focused thing. It makes sense that they would do that, and I think it's great. Like, and if people stayed with it for the ride, like bridging the middle, as Josh was talking about, like that's important when you have a long campaign that's going to take you days, maybe even weeks to get through. You need to keep the player invested. So if it's interesting, yeah, I mean, perfect.
Okay. Alexis, what do you think about like the whole length in terms of that? Because you're excited for Halo 5.
Yep.
Is there like a length that you're looking for where you're like, that's going to nail it?
Oh,
Mention
I
Mad
expect-
Max.
Oh my god, Mad Max. Oh my god, let's talk about Mad Max. Can we talk about
Mad
Mad,
Max
Max,
too.
please? Can we talk
Yeah,
about
go
Mad
for it.
Max? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, she really wants to talk about Mad Max.
You better.
Fucking love Mad. I'm so excited for it. No, I mean at this point, obviously Halo is a really developed franchise, so I'm expecting it to be, you know, a 6 to like Ian was talking about, like a 6 to 12 hour game experience. Anything more than, I mean, like in terms of the campaign itself. Because I'm one of those weirdos that doesn't really play Halo multiplayer too much, unless I'm
Weirdo.
unless it's like Friday night, you know, drunk
Yeah.
with your friends kind of a thing.
Halo and chill.
Yeah, Halo and chill.
Exactly.
Kind of.
And chill. Let's talk
There will
about
be
gameplay
boxed
length.
wine.
Let's talk about gameplay length, baby.
Gameplay. Like,
But yeah, I mean, that's only because it's a Halo title now. You know, when I play games like GTA or not Batman because that doesn't have multiplayer, but like GTA, where I expect, I mean, a lot more time spent in there because you're going to be roaming around like in the middle of it. I don't really have like a set, like the only thing, I'm just pissed that I have to get all these fucking Riddler trophies just to fucking 100% the goddamn game before I can even fight fucking Riddler himself. That is just
I really like
bullshit
them.
to me. So annoying. I have to fly around Gotham finding these stupid trophies for what? I know where the guy is. Why can't I just blow it up and just kick his ass? God, that's
100%
annoying.
in a game should not be tedious.
Oh,
I'm
and
gonna put that out
I think
there.
that's the only reason why I have a gripe with it, is because of that particular game. In this
I'm
particular
so happy
like,
that
time
you
in
brought
my
it back
life.
to Riddler trophies.
I hate it. Oh my god, I hate it.
They
And I just keep
improved on it
going
though
back
since
to it.
they improved on it though since Arkham City, which was probably the worst offender. Because like in this one, you
Yes.
didn't have all the puzzles. You had a good mixture of things like the car chasing things. You know, you had to do. Was it like what are they called, racetracks? You had the racetracks, and then
Yeah.
they had like the Batmobile kind of like puzzles as well. But they weren't as kind of like you didn't have to stand there for 10 minutes going. They were kind of
Exactly.
quick. There was just it was like a
Yeah.
oh, I see what you did, and then you got it out, and then
Yeah.
you just went on your way. So it was a
It made me
bit
feel a
better,
lot
but I get
smarter.
it still. Yeah, I understand that.
So
Fair
I mean, in
enough.
terms of, I really don't care in terms of length.
Yeah, because I think again, it's about like expectation and quality, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's the
Yeah, I
thing
think
with
that's fair
like,
enough.
do people really like the Halo campaigns that much? Like Halo 4 really
Oh,
disappointed
I
me
do.
in that. Did
Don't
you?
talk
Because
about
I felt-
Halo. Okay, you know what? Don't talk about Halo 4 though. Like the rest of the
Why-
Halo
why?
campaigns are awesome.
But I mean,
I
you know-
think, yeah, like
go on.
there's good campaigns and there's bad campaigns in there in the Halo franchise. But the good campaigns, I mean, this is my opinion, but I think the good campaigns in the Halo franchise are like the best shooter campaigns outside of Half-Life. I know.
Yeah.
Like it's a strong opinion, but like Halo 2.
I'll stand behind you, Sir Ninja.
Halo 2 is my favorite, and I'll tell you why. It's the whole dichotomy. It was the best because you got the Master Chief on one side of that aisle, and then you got the Arbiter on the other, and you're playing them both. And the way that the two stories just sort of arc perfectly together in this figure eight, and it was just like a masterclass way to tell a story. And it was good. It was well paced. It was like 12 hours, and it was exciting, and everything worked. Everything worked really well.
Ian, you're my new hero.
Halo 3 felt like a lot of filler. Could have been done a lot better.
I thought Halo 2 was the filler one. Because it was that whole thing of them going, "You're gonna finish the fight," and then at the end he was like, "I'm gonna finish the fight."
This fight.
Oh, see, that's the thing. Like everybody has this.
Nearly snapped my disc in half after I saw that. I was like,
and that's
oh
the
my
thing.
God,
like, I think about this a lot because
everybody
had there was this big outcry because Halo 2 was a cliffhanger, and like who didn't see it coming for one thing, and also like in games it was like there weren't a lot of cliffhangers at that time. Now it's standard. Now cliffhangers are like, okay, that's fine. That's what games do. But Halo 2 was one of the first ones, and gamers got upset about that. So now it has a bad rap. It's like, no, it was still a good story. Like,
it was.
I mean,
yes, yes, it was.
No, it wasn't. Okay. The Arbiter missions were so fillerish. They were so boring. Like, there was that guy, there's that one where you had to play as the Arbiter, and you had to go hunt that dude who had like a jetpack on him, and he had no relevance to anything. And you just there like, why am I doing?
Read the books. Read the books.
You don't need to read the books.
You don't even have to read the books. Like what he was doing was very, very relevant to the overall story. and
have you read the books? It would give you.
All right, kids.
All right.
Down.
Papa J has.
Yeah,
now we're gonna get
the youngest person here.
The flame battle over Halo. It can do that though. See, it's really.
I have
divisive.
a feeling though, once we're done, that we're all just gonna gang up on Josh and like.
Don't do this.
I'll drive or something.
Well, I'm in a weird position where I like Halo, fucking love it, but I don't give a shit about the campaign. So, Josh, you might have an ally because I don't give a fuck.
Well, like, we're going back to Halo 4. Did nobody else think that like it just felt like little battle arenas that was just going to like a little cutscene and then back to little battle arenas, and they all were multiplayer maps as well. And that's something that a lot of games are doing now as well. Is that all of the story missions,
find their assets,
all the levels, it's just
it started in Call of Duty
to speed up production. And that's a shame, and it deserves criticism. My whole thing.
You gotta love how they try to frame it in a good way though. Like they're like, you can relive the moments in multiplayer. It's like, shut the fuck up.
You just
remember when you didn't care about any of those guys who died? Play the map again.
Play the map again. Kill more people. I guess for me, like the gameplay in Halo has always been interesting enough for me. Like that you have the squad AI on the other side, and you're picking people off in a certain order. And I mean, especially if you play the game on the hardest difficulty, it gets a lot more interesting.
Oh boy!
So like,
yeah.
I still have sweaty nightmares on ODST. All scales on.
Yeah.
Getting that fucking Jesus.
That was a game. That was a Halo game I loved because you didn't play as a super soldier. It was one of those things where you played as this squishy little dude.
It was pretty unique. Yeah.
And you related, but you understood and you related what those little dudes had to go through because you're this giant badass piece of armor.
Okay, wait a minute. So wait, time out.
All right.
You liked that game where you played as this like normal dude and see what he went through and oh my god, like this is the other side of it. But you're gonna sit there and criticize having to go against the rebel side of the Covenant because you've never read the books.
Oh
I
shit!
don't want to read the books. Don't
and you
bring
shouldn't
up
have
the
to
books.
read the books. Yeah, we're talking about games. But okay, if you play,
but you're talking about the story. You're talking about like the story of it, like oh my god, this normal guy and he's a normal soldier and he has to go through it. But fuck those Covenant like rebel story. Oh my god,
John,
it's so confusing.
It's John. He's got a personality.
117.
It was just one of those things where it's like you just wanted. It's kind of like with Metal Gear Solid and stuff as well, with how everyone was burnt with Raiden and things. And then even with Big Boss, like you just wanted, like I just really wanted to experience like Solid Snake's story. And then they just crammed in more of these little useless characters. Like the Arbiter was alright. He was cool as a third, like a side character, but I didn't care about it. It was like it was about the adventure of
Oh,
Master
no.
Oh my
Okay.
god. Okay.
He's the most
all right,
compelling
let's
character in
move
that
on.
whole
Let's
game.
move
No,
on.
he's
Listen,
not.
I think
Pull my hair out.
You
I'm
gotta
gonna pull
move
my
on.
hair
I
out.
would say the voice actor is a god. He's one of the best voice actors in the business, but the character
He was pretty good in Community.
Kiss my ass.
Oh my
All
god.
right.
All right.
All right, I
gotta
think we
drop
exhausted
this.
that topic
Oh
as
my
much as we
God.
could,
Let's not beat a dead
transitioning it
horse.
to a Halo campaign discussion. That's okay. That could
Oh
be a
my
future topic.
But actually, something I
but-
want to bring up though is that with these
Yeah.
different genres of games, shut up. I'm only kidding.
Shut
But
your
Oh my
mouth.
God.
with other little games, instead of just first-person shooters and stuff that I thought were really good with things like Dead Space, because when that game, it had like randomized enemy placement, so it had that thing where you could actually experience the story a little bit differently and be
Preach.
surprised still. Yeah, so, well, I'm going to preach about this.
Do it. Dead
And so-
Space has my heart.
Get on your soapbox.
Dead
Oh.
Space was a fantastic game, not only because it was able to develop a fantastic story, not just, through all of its titles, because Dead Space 1 was great, Dead Space 2 improved on it and also made you actually care about Isaac Clarke. It's one of those things where it's like, we've had maybe like, say, Halo 1. I'm really sorry that you're going to probably get offended by this, but Master Chief is like a blank board of crap, and so when they kind of start to give him a bit more of a voice in like Halo 4 and stuff, I just do not care, even with his skinless eyebrows at the end of the game. But then like in Dead Space 2,
I'm going to come to England and I'm going to throttle you. I hate you
And
so
then-
much.
but then like you had Isaac Clarke and they gave him this really good personality. They made you really care about him. Then in Dead Space 3, they improved on it even more. But with that kind of thing where you wanted to experience all of that again because the gameplay constantly changed, even though it was completely linear. So you had that randomized enemy placement. It was one of those things where it kept you surprised, which was awesome. I really liked that and I appreciated that. Because again, it adds value to the game. Because that's the point.
Totally, yeah.
You don't want to just play a one sit-through game and then throw it away. I mean, these games are like $60. You want to...
And if you play, okay, Dead Space, getting back to the topic, Dead Space, $60. You play, like, how long is that game? I mean, I played it on a number of difficulty levels, eventually ramping up to the hardest one, and I think that it's like 15, 16 hours or something when you really put yourself through the paces of that game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it does have that
actually-
replay value, because, I mean, Dead Space 1 had a New Game Plus, like, built into it, I think.
Yeah, and also I want to build up on that because this topic kind of pretty heavily relates to replay value, and I feel like it's often, I feel like it's sometimes a bit misunderstood, like where replay value comes from. Like, sure, New Game Plus modes are always great, but ultimately if they don't diversify the gameplay up enough, it's not going to really help. Whereas like something like I just played, the game we talked about pretty extensively last week, Until Dawn.
Yeah.
The replay value in that is pretty significant because like it's just so crazy how like different it can be. You can start any episode at any time because there's like the game like splits up into 10 different chapters. You can like play from different, and also it's just fucking good. So I would play that again, just like how I would watch my favorite movies again. Like there's something to be said about replay value, just in the sense where you just play it again because it's good, because it's just, it has a certain quality to it that you can't get in other things because it's unique to that series. One that comes to mind for me is like Mass Effect. I played that series so many times. There was a time in my life where I played it annually just because I'm like, I need to play it again.
Already has a pretty high hour commitment, like
Totally.
time commitment. It's a long game, but you can play it again because of the choices that you make, and if you get
Yeah.
really into that story and stuff. So
Which I should clarify, I've never played the original through again because it's fucking annoying.
you never
It's like-
played the original Mass Effect?
No, I played it once for like my trilogy playthrough.
Okay.
But I've never played it through again because fuck the Mako and and just everything about it is like such a grind. But the story is awesome, of course. But then 2 is my favorite, and then 3 is like I played 2 and 3
is
like so many
amazing.
times. Oh,
2 is
it's
great. I played 3. I remember, pre-ordering 3, waiting, because I was all the way back at Mass Effect 1, a fan since the beginning, and 3 was coming out. I had such a good time with that game, like 90% of it. Like everybody else.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
And then like I'm getting to the end, people die, I cry, and then we get to the end, and then I was just like, fuck this, and
It's like,
what? Being palpably upset.
Can I ask you, and we'll move on to the next topic because this has nothing to do with it, but it's okay. After this, can I ask you, have you played the ending through again with the extended cut DLC?
Yeah, I have.
What did you think about it afterwards?
I thought it was like makeup on a pig. You can paint it up all you want.
Beautiful. I love it. Okay, cool. Move on to the next topic. This is my one that I want to bring up, and it relates, again, it kind of relates. We've been talking about multiplayer quite a bit this week, and that's okay, because it all interlinks and entwines quite nicely. Because my topic I want to talk about is, like, this idea that you can take a single-player campaign that we've, like, historically come to know them, and combine multiplayer elements. And we've seen attempts at this to an extent with stuff like Watch Dogs, and then obviously like the more infamous stuff like SimCity and Diablo 3, the idea of online only DRM and stuff like that. And that is disturbing, of course, and understandably I'm not going to try and support that. It's kind of a crazy idea that you can not even own your game and log into it to play it single player, and you lag in a single player only mode. It's kind of ridiculous. But I like kind of removing that aspect to an extent. If we think about how just the multiplayer elements interlink with a single-player game, is there potential there? Because I'm really curious, because I feel like the knee-jerk reaction is always to be like, ew, no, get out. I don't want other people in my single-player. Get out of here, please, just go away. And I'm like, well, surely there's some potential in this age where we are all connected to the web all the time through this digital means. Is there some potential? That's what I'm curious about, to question you guys. What do you think?
I think one thing that was really good about, say, like Watch Dogs and stuff was that, and say even Dark Souls too, is that you can actually optionally turn all this stuff off. So
Yes,
at least they kind of put thought into it, like unlike The Sims,
Yeah.
where it was like this entire. Oh, was it SimCity? Sorry, I think it was SimCity, right? Where it was just like the entire thing was just online based, and they obviously just did not care what anybody thought until the sale showed. But with Watch Dogs and everything, that was and the funny thing is, actually, I loved Watch Dogs for its multiplayer. I thought it was a really clever little thing, having these people invade your game and having to like find them or do it the other way around. It was actually one of the main focuses of me playing that game as well. And so I just appreciate now as well that a lot of developers are just letting you turn it off if you need to. So even though it's kind of integrated in there, you don't have to play it, which is great.
Okay, so are you talking more in terms of it's okay if it's kind of additional, as long as it doesn't like feel like something that's necessary?
If you don't want to play it, then and you're given the option, then thumbs up by me. But it's one of those things where if you force it in, and it's going to be one of those things where if someone who just likes playing by themselves is then forced to actually, experience this thing that they have no interest in, then that's, keep me. I don't want to go near that. Sometimes you want to wander around. Like say if you're playing GTA, it's one of those things where if you're playing GTA Online like all the time, you're going to get some guy trolling you and blowing you up. But you're going in there knowing that that's going to happen. But say if you're just like playing the single player story and you just see this guy roll up with a rocket launcher and blow up Trevor's car, you're going to be fuming, and that's because it's been forced on you and you didn't want that to happen.
Well, let me throw this at you then. What do you think more generally of stuff that's coming that we do know has this kind of, this kind of linking of multiplayer and single player in such a unparalleled and unprecedented way? Stuff like with No Man's Sky and The Division. Do you kind of feel like that is maybe pushing it a bit too much, especially with No Man's Sky, where you people are always going to be in your world and you can't even identify them from like AI to an extent because they don't have name tags or anything? So what do you think about that?
The funny thing is, though, is that they haven't really explained that game all that much.
No, they haven't. I'm just going off what the dev has said.
So, like, the whole multiplayer thing, I think that's literally what the guy said was, you can have people in your game, and there they are. And it's like, well, okay, you're going to tell us a bit more about that? What does that mean?
He's like, no, it's mysterious, okay, go away. And then,
if it's one of those things where it's like, it's no friendly fire and stuff, and they're just part of the adventure with you, and they're just kind of like doing their own thing, then sure, that seems kind of cool. But, I mean... Yeah. Another really good instance, say, is with the Phantom Pain, which also has multiplayer integrated into the story, where Mother Base, who is part of your single player experience and all that stuff you collect, can be taken by other players. So people can actually come into your base and nick all your stuff and then bugger off, And so it's one of those. It's kind of like a Tamagotchi kind of thing, but it kind of adds into that thing that I think Ian was saying before, where it adds that kind of feeling of work. And that doesn't feel good. So it's, multiplayer is in a way making you having to do two different things at the same time now. But if they give you that option to turn it off, then as mentioned before, I'm fine with that. So just give me that option, brah. I just, if I can be left alone, then I can be left alone and I'm happy. Leave me alone, Alexis.
Okay.
You said a very British sentence in that thing, and I just got thrown off. I didn't hear anything else after
Tamagotchi?
that.
Is that it?
No. I heard him say they just come and nick all your stuff and bugger
Pick up my
off.
stuff. Bugger off. I'm a
Okay.
Yorkshireman. Don't judge.
Nice.
Ian, Alexis, do you guys have any strong views on this?
I really don't have very many strong views on this. I enjoy a game. I don't think I've ever played a game where it's like forced you to be in like an online setting
Some
to
sort
play
of
a single
multiplayer.
player. Yeah. I mean, maybe I have and I just don't like recall, or I didn't recognize it. So I guess I didn't really have any problems with it. If I did play one, I'm not really sure.
Played any of the Dark Souls games or anything like that? No, because that's kind of about that kind of implementation there as well.
That's kind of what's going on. I have a view that I can throw in. I think that, so with games like what BioWare has been doing with their single-player games, they add that multiplayer component, and then with games like Dark Souls, where the multiplayer component is just like built in, part of the knee-jerk reaction from the community often is like, don't take resources away from your development of the single-player experience. Yeah. Like, don't do it. Yeah. Because I know you're going to do it. And then they're like, oh, no, but we have enough resources because 8 studios are working on this game. Well, that's a problem for one thing. For another thing, like, if you didn't take resources away to add this component that I would rather not have in the game at all, maybe you could approach the quality of something like The Witcher 3, you know? So maybe if you were, if you had the kind of genius at your studio that CD Projekt has. But yeah, so I hear that. I really hear that argument, because it's like they are spending time doing this, and if it benefits the game, great. If it doesn't, fine. If the option is there, even better. But they are spending time doing it, and they could be spending that time just polishing up whatever single player experience they have, because the push to add multiplayer, I think for a lot of the developers out there, it is in an effort to, at least from a marketing standpoint, combat the big multiplayer titles that sell like hotcakes. Yeah. Like, look, we've got our multiplayer thing too, and it's like,
or just appeal to a larger demographic. You know, a lot of people would just like look. Well, a lot of people will look at the order, for example, a game that comes out in 2015 for $60, and they'll say, "Well, does it have multiplayer?" Because there are so many. It's kind of like a trope now, where it's like you need multiplayer. It's like, well, that's just not the case. You know, when The Witcher 3 clearly proves. Look, The Witcher, CD Projekt Red aren't sponsoring this. Let's just make that perfectly clear.
Skyrim sold a lot of copies too, and Fallout 4
we haven't gotten any money, but we would appreciate some. No, it's
I think that was one of the benefits of, say, like Machine Games doing the Wolfenstein New Order, because the entire team focused on just doing that single-player experience. But then we also, because of that, we got another expansion story from it. So we kind of, for those people who like that kind of solo stuff, all those resources were put into that single-player story, got a fantastic story, it was brilliant. But then we also got another one because of that too, because they focused on that one goal of not having to separate everybody. So they probably did have like that one team doing the New Order, then one team maybe doing like that extra little bit of DLC, or maybe working together on that as well. Right. So it does have its little benefit of, not keeping everyone apart and keeping them all together, and working at the same goal, which is cool.
No, I mean, honestly, I'm a bit torn on this, because I feel like you can do it. Like there's some potential for this like multiplayer, single player kind of merging type thing. But I feel like it's hard for me to even contend that position when it's been done so appallingly. Like when you take Mass Effect 3 with its whole ready percentage, I remember at the end of that game, the way it kind of worked in a general sense is you accumulated ready points throughout the entirety of the game.
Didn't you have to do the app as well?
I'm not sure about the app. But I know for certain that you had to get these ready points by doing certain decisions, and then at the end of the game, you had a percentage that would just sit at 50%. And I was so confused. It sat at 50% the whole time. Like, why is this at 50? Like, how do I get this up? And then what happens is it divides. It times as the percentage to your ready points. So if it's 50, your ready points just get halved, and the ready points determine what ending you're going to get. So it's probably going to be horrible if you get 50.
In order to get
if you get half your points,
you had to go play multiplayer, right?
If you wanted 100, you have to play multiplayer, and it accumulated so slowly as well. It was like 3% for every game, and a game took like 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah, this is the funny thing. Because what if they integrated that as multiplayer, and it was one of those things that it was a community effort to get to 100%? Would you be happy with that?
a community, like we all did it together, or not
Now,
just me? Or...
yeah, exactly. Now there is a game that I want to bring up. I would love to know your opinion on. Would you be happy if they actually kind of integrate that instead? So where everyone.
Well, I mean, another game on the PS4 kind of did it with Helldivers. That,
exactly,
like,
this is the one I was going to bring up. Go for it.
Oh, sure, yeah. I mean, like that I think that did it quite nicely because that did not rely. I mean, that wasn't like a story-heavy game. It wasn't like an RPG. So I feel like it's a bit of a different scenario. But I feel like it again had this multiplayer element integrated that was really kind of nice. The way it kind of worked was like each week, everyone worked together in a unified way to like progress the story and unlock new certain elements depending on how well you guys did, you know?
Exactly.
That's interesting, actually.
Yeah, and it was really interesting, and like I thought it actually like contributed something. And you know, as I said, it's hard for me to contend this position because this is so much like I feel like so many games have done it so poorly with this online-only DRM kind of used as an excuse to put these elements in, like with SimCity and EA telling us, no, trust me, the game's better with online. It's like, well, it's clearly not.
Just don't make a shitty game. I'll buy it. Like that's
Yeah.
Dude,
but then
Ian,
again,
you
I feel
are
like
the
I feel like
epitome of the dude abides.
I feel like there has to be potential when something like Journey exists, you know, that and this is kind of a spoiler, but it does have some multiplayer elements, and it does have multiplayer elements that truly enhance the quality of the game. So I feel like you can do it. There has to be a way to do that to make the single player better by integrating some online element to it, you know?
The only problem is
or is that just too unique? I don't know.
Well, it's because it's so consumer dependent though. Like, say if you release a game that has these kind of things integrated on it, and it actually needs to be done by the player base. What if nobody buys the game and you never experience that? Or what if, say, the game has come out and it's been around for maybe say 3 years, and then all that community has died off, and you don't get to and then someone comes on and goes, oh, I bought this new game and it's supposed to have all this really cool stuff in it, and then say Journey, and then you never meet a single person when you're wandering through that. Or say if you're playing Helldivers and you can't beat those weekly challenges or defeat those planets because you don't have that community there to progress that and see the end of that game. So in a way it kind of like cripples
That's
you
absolutely a fair point. The idea that a multiplayer element could enhance definitely would mean the absence of that would definitely detract. That's totally fair. So maybe there's certainly some sort of, I guess, fear on a developer's end to do that because, as you said, you know, it's not uncommon for a game to be around for 2 to 3 years in terms of a single player game and for it to still be relevant. But if you did have this multiplayer side of things be so impactful, maybe it wouldn't be as good. Yeah, I don't know.
I remember
really
when Helldivers developers, actually, when the game first came out, they assumed they were going to sell way more than they did. And for the first week, nobody could budge that progression meter. It stayed in the exact same place, because I think they only sold like a few thousand copies of it in the end. It's got a bit popular now. Well, it did for a while, but
yeah,
it's
I
one
think
of those
Let's Players put it on the map quite a bit.
Yeah, definitely. But it was one of those things where it was literally they had to tune the game to a lesser kind of player-based assumption. So it didn't take as many people to actually progress the thing, because they already had like this kill requirement or whatever you needed to actually progress the meter. And so it was one of those scary things where it's like, what if they didn't? What if developers weren't that kind of in tune with their game and stuff, and people did end up getting screwed over because nobody bought it? And it's really sad and scary. And I hope it's not. I mean, seeing as those developers did do that, I'm kind of glad that they did, because it means that we might be able to experience them for a long time. So say if it is 3 years into the future and that game did die out and there's only 5 people playing it, potentially that means that you could still experience all those things if the developers continuously lower the progression requirement and stuff, so people can still experience all these things.
If they're still paying attention to their game,
yeah, totally.
Yeah, I think that we found the line that they have to walk. Like you need to be like, if you're gonna put this multiplayer thing in your game, let it enhance your game, but never let it detract.
Yeah,
because it's so community dependent, as Josh was saying, you can't let it detract, because you'll kill your game.
That's fair enough, yeah. Yeah, I just thought it was very interesting because, again, stuff I mean, not every game has to do this. It's just every now and then something like a Helldivers does come along. I'm like, wow, this it's a really interesting idea. And I feel like because we are living in this technological age of just constant... What? I stumbled through that, I'm sorry. Yeah, okay. Listen, strokes.
We have the technology.
I have one stroke every episode for my birthday. It's fine.
Nice.
But yeah, I feel like there is some potential there. I want to get your thoughts on
What's
it.
the bad experience that everybody had then when it comes to multiplayer and great? It seems a lot
mine
of
was the
people
Mass
don't like
Effect one.
Mass Effect.
Mine
Mine
because
was
I didn't have
Mass
an
Effect,
internet.
yeah.
I didn't have an internet connection, so my ending was just ruined because of this 50% shit. It was fucking retarded. Oh my god, so
Yeah,
dumb.
my ending did not go as well because I didn't have internet for that game either.
So stupid.
Yeah.
That was the worst. That's okay though. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. That's the Singularity podcast for today. Before we go, we'll give a few shout outs for each of our panelists here in terms of what we got and how to follow us on the the Twitter sphere and all that good stuff. So Josh, want to give a few shout outs before we leave the lovely audience?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to check out some of my stuff, then I'm over at noir_proxy on Twitter, and I also have my awesome little channel, Proxy Playthroughs.
You got some Phantom Pain stuff coming?
Oh, potentially. It's one of those things where I'm just terrified about the whole content ID thing and having my channel shut down.
Oh god, yeah.
So I am gonna be streaming it again tonight, and hopefully I'm not gonna be chased down by Konami. But because I was literally one of the first people to stream it and get away with it. So fingers
Nice.
crossed it goes well tonight, everybody.
What
So
a badass.
keep
Here's
an eye
hoping.
out on my Twitter if you do want to see some of that streamage. We're gonna go for D-Dog tonight. That's our goal.
Nice.
Awesome. Ian.
Yeah, I'm on the Twitter machine. Is my handle on the screen, Jay? Is that going to show up?
It is, yeah.
Okay,
no,
yeah. It's
yeah.
people. It's on the screen.
Black it out.
Did you
Black it out now.
Did you forget it?
It's there. I'm on there occasionally.
Cool.
But yeah, no. Check out my contributions to Only SP's YouTube channel. That's what I've been doing lately. I make some Witcher 3 videos.
Yeah, dude, those are
You've been
dope.
able to tell that I'm obsessed with The Witcher 3, so more of those. It may take some time because my computer's actually been like overheating in the Los Angeles sun as I try to play that
damn.
game. But they're coming. They're on the way.
Awesome. Alexis.
My Twitter is there too, right?
I assume so.
Watch
Let's just hope so at
watch
this
me and
stage.
Josh fight on Twitter.
Aww.
Always
That would be
entertaining.
really-
About Master Chief and Halo, obviously. And
we will.
ladies.
The funny thing is, though, we're still
Yeah.
gonna play Halo together when that new one comes out.
Oh, of
so
course.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, oh yeah. Hell yeah.
We'll just have a massive bitch fest while playing it. So like you'll have
Fuck yeah.
Master Chief and the other characters like arguing, and then over that will just be me and Alexis arguing, going, "He's not important." Swear it.
I always bring a knife to a Halo game, so
bring it.
watch yourself. Watch your back.
All right, kids. Halo, let's save it, all right? Jesus. You guys are obsessed. This is obsessive behavior.
Thanks, guys. I had
I need to get in. I need to get in my plug, man. It's my birthday. You're not even gonna give me a plug. What the fuck?
Halo is
Oh my
love.
God.
That is your
All
plug.
right.
Lucky
My
one.
plug. All right. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to follow my stuff, go on the Twitter sphere. My Twitter should be on the screen because I do the graphic, but you never know. I don't know. I could just pass out because I'm pretty tired.
Jay.
But it's okay. If you want to follow my other stuff, go to my personal YouTube and go to my blog, which is DLC, Delightfully Lucid Cynicism. So dlcynicism.com. Check that out because that's getting up and running again after a nice little interim. But that's it for me. And also check out my Until Dawn. I did a brief kind of video review because it's spoilers. It's pretty good. So there you go. It's actually a genuine choice consequence game. Can you believe it? Telltale, take some fucking notes. All right, cool.
Should we end this by singing "Happy Birthday"?
Oh no, no, we're not
Come
doing
on,
that at
come on,
all.
everyone, let's
No,
do
that's
this.
the dumbest.
Happy
That's the worst. I fucking hate. I hate you all. You guys are the worst. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to the Singularity podcast today. Thank you for you guys joining me and not singing Happy
You
Birthday.
smell like
Bye,
a monkey.
The worst. Literally the worst.
Shut up.
We'll see you next week for another episode of the podcast and have fun. We'll see you next time.
He loved it.